communication channels, just to even understand the flow of information, even to get the emergency broadcast system. Once your phone's run out of juice, once your house is turned off, once you can't recharge anything, if you're not prepared at least with the very minimum to either have, like you say, a generator out there, but that's overkill to charge some devices, but to have some, foldable solar panels, portables, whatever, to be able to recharge just the simple stuff so you can keep your comms channels up at the minimum. This is what I'm talking about, learning the new skill set.
The last time we had a Democrat-led Congress and president was during the first years of the Obama administration. Janet Yellen was the Fed chair then, and now soon to be the new Treasury Secretary under Biden. Obamacare was passed. President Obama and Congress sent billions to banks and Wall Street. That was the perfect recipe, and gold soared more than 200% from 2008 to 2011. Patriot Gold Group has the no-fee-for-life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no-fee-for-life IRA. So go ahead and give the folks at Patriot Gold Group a call to discuss physical gold and silver. And the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 5 years in a row from 2016 until present. Click the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video.
This box of seeds, all these different ones. So what I'm trying to do is put it out into the months for the planting, because I've already plotted out, I have 23 acres out here, and been banging around the property looking for the different light for the lower light vegetables.
For about $1 per pack, you can get a huge variety of heirloom seeds, like up to 50 varieties. Buy them up while you still can. It's literally planting season. And last year during planting season, there were no seeds available. You remember that?
I do, and some of the things I've been looking at, because I also buy seeds frequently, and I put them in the Mylar bags that'll last 25 years. I like to keep those emergency supplies. And I noticed that the seed price, this is interesting. I went to Amazon to get the pack, and it had 50,000 seeds in it, and it was $105. I left it in my cart for, 10 days or something, and I come back, and it was $118. So these kind of price jumps, and then it'll be up again. It'll probably be $128 by the time we go into planting season. So you're looking at 20% rises on seeds. And yeah, last year there was a real shortage on seeds. You could still get the mustard greens and stuff, but you can't live off of that. Kale and mustard greens. You could, it's bitter and whatnot, but that was kind of what was left. Those things for the tomatoes and the squash and the pumpkins and the things you really could eat, corn. So here's my story. I had to go to the co-op, and I ordered 1,000 pounds of buckwheat, because I want to plant my field out here, 5 acres of buckwheat for a pollinator habitat this spring with the bees. I had to pre-order it. They don't have it anymore out. They had to order it from the supplier. And then the sorghum I'm also getting, I ordered 2,000 pounds, 1 full ton of sorghum. Again, they would normally have that in where you could just go buy the 50-pound bags and load it in the back of the truck. But this time, no, you got to order everything now. The only thing that was in stock was the wheat berries, obviously the hard red winter. Yeah. A lot of the rye stuff, some barley. That was it. Everything else you have to order now. And this is from the co-op, and we're talking like straight up going to the farmers, planting multi-tons of seeds, all that. But again, you can sprout it, you can eat it, and you can grow it. There's definitely something going on the larger level now. Last year it was the retail. So if I want to say this last thing, last year it was retail, and we're both talking about that. This year, I'm telling you, it's at the industrial level. There's seed bottlenecks. I'm going to say bottlenecks. I'm not going to say shortage. I'm going to say bottlenecks at the moment. On the industrial level. These guys who are growing your food, literally thousands of acres, are struggling to get seed in now.
Well, let's talk about your ton of sorghum. What are you going to do with 2,000 pounds of sorghum? Is it for sprouting and feeding farm animals, or are you going to be growing sorghum, or is it to grind maybe? And are you using it as a prep for flour?
And I'm also going to try to distill some. So there's an enormous amount of things. See, that was one of my prime crops to look at to grow for the food, for the heads. You get those amazing large heads, a couple pounds off each plant for the heads, off of each head. There's 3 heads on those. It looks like corn. And when they come off and they spill over, a lot of times you get a pound and a half per head, sometimes more on the hybrid varieties. But the stalks, that's where they used to get sugar from. So there's sugar in the stalk. Now, the Amish guys down the road, they still do the sugar cane. They do the molasses or whatever out of the sorghum stalk. still do that. They got the horses go in a circle and they squeeze out just like you squeeze sugarcane.
Yeah,
you can squeeze the sorghum stalks also.
You can purchase used sorghum presses. There are a lot of them available. They're just two rollers that you put the sorghum stalks through, and they run off. They can run off of horses or PTOs or whatever. So I've seen those in operation, and they're fantastic. Because in an area like I'm in, where it's very hard to grow silver maples and some of the sugar sap producing trees don't exist, you can grow this sorghum and simply use the stalks. Now, to be honest, you have to be very particular on the type of sorghum you're buying, because some sorghum has more sugar in the cane and more juice and less seeds, and you really want a good balance where you get a good seed head and a good sugar cane. And so I'm pretty sure you have an all-purpose sorghum.
Yeah, be careful, because when I was going into order too, I almost ordered the wrong one, which was just for fodder. See, it never came to head, but it went up like 3-4 feet. And that was exactly what you're talking about for animal fodder. And I'm like, no. I want to get the actual head coming off that for the grain. So even, the guy, if you go into a co-op, get guided through it, because there's like 30 different kinds of sorghum and they all have different uses and they're all for different zones and different areas. So again, yeah, I went for the sorghum for the grain, because you can eat that. You can turn it into the flour. You can sprout it out and give it to your animals. You can do a batch with it, add the sugar, add the yeast, and then you can distill that down into liquor. And then you also, with the benefit of the sugar cane, of the sorghum cane, if you will, the sugar coming out of that. So I'm looking for multiple uses. And the green matter can be used for animal food too. So if you see an area, like maybe it didn't get enough, I don't know, you can see where they broadcast spread it and it didn't come in really good and it's not growing that well, and fertilizer mist or lime mist or whatever, then you can harvest that for green matter for animals, and you can just like carve out that section of the field that's not doing so well, instead of trying to bring it up and you already know it's not going to, because it was late getting in there or whatever, the maturation, it sprouted, came up too late. Difficulty growing, cut that off, use it for animal food. So there's an enormous amount of uses for sorghum. I think it's one of the almost all-around plants. Plus you're more versed in this than me. Tell everybody about the benefits of sorghum grain compared to like wheat and corn and things. It's like a superfood ancient grain.
Yeah, these are ancient grains, and sorghum is the largest of them. But you also have millet and amaranth, which are a much smaller grain. But these are much more complex. They just don't provide the carbohydrates that wheat and triticale and barleys do. They have a lot more complex proteins and other micronutrients in them. Just taking amaranth, for example, the seed shell itself has so many micronutrients in it. It's almost like eating a superfood supplement, which is why I think that a lot of the ancient people live very long lives, because they were making a lot of their flatbreads with amaranth. Growing these ancient grains, because I was recently on a homesteading site and people were getting made fun of when they said, hey, I'm interested in growing my own wheat for flour, and a bunch of idiot prepper homesteaders were like, growing wheat for flour, I mean, you get like £1 per acre. And I had to interject on some of these threads, because if you grow some of these organic wheats, you produce 50 bushels per acre. A single bushel of wheat equals over 60 pounds of flour, which means that per acre you get like 3,000 pounds of flour per acre, and no homesteader needs that. So in a small plot, 8 foot wide and 100 foot long, you can grow 60 pounds of flour a year in the form of wheat. And if you don't need 60 pounds, you only need 30 pounds, then 30 pounds of the wheat berries can be sprouted for your chickens and for your own wheatgrass and wheatgrass juice and other things that you're using it for. So you don't need much space to grow a lot of flour. 8 foot by 100 foot long, and you're golden.
Yeah, let me go back to, I'll give you some prices that I paid. So I did get millet at the co-op too. I bought the Japanese silver millet. It's a specific type of millet. It's straight for the grain head, and it was $72 for 50 pounds. Little expensive. I went and got some more wheat berries too, just because I like to have that for sprouting for the wheatgrass. $14 right now for a 50-pound bag. So, you're talking multiple tons coming off a field. So whoever said you only get a couple pounds off of the acreage you're growing just doesn't know what they're talking about. Tons. Maybe they meant a couple tons, not a couple pounds. Maybe they got the measurements mixed up.
They were making fun, because a lot of people don't know that humans, Individual families have been growing wheat and grains time immemorial to feed their family. There were no stores that provided this. They grew it. I mean, that's how we got our flour, and then it was hand milled. And even the natives here, the Pueblo people, stone ground wild seeds to make their own flours. And then they learned how to cultivate and harvest some of the grains for higher production. So just how uneducated the public is in the times we're heading into, it's very scary. And I'm blessed to be in such a rural area surrounded by skilled people. And if they're not skilled, they're definitely people that are willing to learn a new skill. Is that how you feel out where you are?
Yeah, and one of the main skills that we should all start to think about and getting together, communication channels. And when I say that, I really mean like picking up a walkie-talkie. Here, I have my, I got my little portable ham radio here. But, who do I call? What if people are coming down the road? I mean, who's on channel? Do you have like your neighborhood or your group around you, your community? Is everybody on channel like 127 here? What we were looking at, we're at 142.35 for ours on the communication here. So, I mean, walkie-talkie, is everybody on the right channels when you're going? Like, what if somebody comes out? Like, how do you communicate with people? If something's going terribly wrong and you got whatever coming down the road, bandits or whatever, I mean, how do you communicate with people to say, hey, there's bandits coming down the road. We all need to assemble right over here. I mean, comms, you got to get the comms up. Seriously, I found myself lacking in that. I mean, we had the walkie-talkies and I got the ham radio and whatever, but the signal being in a valley, I had to buy this 100-foot antenna and I'm stringing through the trees and a few things. Comms, new skill everybody needs to learn. And then everybody's got to be a little bit proficient at it so you'll be able to understand to change channel if you need to and how to keep it charged up and, make sure everybody's on the same channels and do radio checks across the way and just things like that.
Yeah, indeed. We're working on getting a national grid up of preparedness groups like you, Lee, myself. We have some other compounds, as you might call them, or facilities in Arizona and up in the Northwest that all want to be communicating so that we have a larger national network. If, let's say, the shit hits the fan and the grid goes down in its extended period, no one's going to know what's happening. We'll immediately be able to get online and be communicating coast to coast between our groups. We can discuss maybe our supply scenario or our preparedness, and then we can then maybe network on how we're going to move forward in our areas. Maybe some groups are going to be under threat and they need to make it to us. So this will be a way for large groups to bug out and to create larger groups, which will be more sustainable and safer. You have to react quick. It has to happen in 24 to 48 hours. Not many people are going to be able to move cross country in a grid down scenario once the population knows that the lights aren't coming back on. But if you have enough fuel and supplies and you know what you're doing, you can get anywhere in the U.S. before the systems break down. And in my opinion, that's 72 hours after the event.
Yeah, agreed. And the whole thing is, it'll be a news blackout too, because your TVs are not going to work. Always have an emergency radio. You don't have that solar powered channel. And I also have the hand cranked communication channels, just to even understand the flow of information, even to get the emergency broadcast system. Once your phone's run out of juice, once your house is turned off, once you can't recharge anything, if you're not prepared at least with the very minimum to either have, like you say, a generator out there, but that's overkill to charge some devices, but to have some, foldable solar panels, portables, whatever, to be able to recharge just the simple stuff so you can keep your comms channels up at the minimum. This is what I'm talking about, learning the new skill set. It's going to be a very terrifying world if you have no information coming in and the lights are out and you don't know what's going on for day 2. You're going to lose your mind, literally. You're going to lose your mind if you don't know. And having a simple radio next to you to even get the weather, so you won't even know severe storms are coming in if you don't have any comms up. Like something that simple that we take so for granted that there's going to be a weather bulletin. Well, maybe not. Yeah. There might be an emergency broadcast. Maybe not. Well, they're going to leave you in a whole different world if you don't have simple communication devices.
Yeah, if you're scared about entering this world, the first step in is to get a set of walkie-talkies and to talk with people in your own group on your own property. We have a great set of walkie-talkies here. They're They're expandable, so you can go from 4 to 8 to 16. They're all on the same channel. They go up to 16 miles in a straight shot. We were using them at LeakCon. They worked a quarter mile through 10 floors of building, and they were crystal clear. So you really want to research. I think we got some Bowfangs. Yeah, we got a 4-pack for about $90, and they're worth it. They keep a charge for days. You can, charge them in limited juice on solar. So that's the first step: walkie-talkies and communicating in your region. Maybe with your neighbor, or a couple people if you're in a community, so they can have the talkies. Then you discuss what channels you're going to be on, and you go from there. The second thing you can do for under $100. We have about 20 CBs under $100, and this will allow you to communicate locally to truckers and other radio gurus that when the grid goes down or something and you can turn your CB on, they're going to be chatting it up on there because they're going to be wanting the same thing you want, and that's information. You can also listen to local radio and fire on that, and then you could step it up and get a scanner.